Revealed. The heartwarming truth behind my son's incredible text after funding his new home. John stood in his backyard, sweat trickling down his forehead, as he wrestled with the fence that had seen better days. The warm summer sun cast a golden glow over Springfield, Missouri, where the air was thick with the aroma of grilled burgers and laughter echoed from neighbors' front porches. He took a moment to breathe in the scents, feeling a pang of nostalgia while recalling happier times. But that afternoon, a ripple of worry gnawed at him. With bills piling up like forgotten dreams, he felt like a shadow of the father he wanted to be. Then his phone buzzed, breaking him from his thoughts. It was Eric. John's heart raced as he opened the text. "Dad, I just got approved for a loan. I'm buying my first home." The joy in Eric's words soaked in, but a swell of fear washed over John. Was he ready for this? Shouldn't he have paved a brighter path for his son? A tightness gripped his chest. He felt trapped between pride and inadequacy. At the family barbecue the following Sunday, the memory of Eric's text hung over him like a storm cloud. Laughter filled the air, but John felt more like an outsider as his wealthy brother, Tom, arrived with stories of his latest vacation in Europe and a brand new lake house. "You wouldn't believe the view," Tom crowed, sipping his cocktail. John clenched his fists under the table, feeling heat rise in his cheeks. Each word seemed like a dagger, twisting deeper, igniting long-held resentments. "Not everyone can coast through life on a trust fund, Tom," John snapped, the words bursting out before he could stop them. The moment froze as the laughter faded and conversations trailed off. His family stared, shock plastered across their faces. The tension spun thick and heavy, the air clammy with unspoken arguments bubbling to the surface. Eric stood at the edge of the crowd, caught between embarrassment and loyalty, his heart pounding in his chest. Silence roared. A wave of regret washed over John. He had always believed in family, but now he was tearing his apart. Finally, after what felt like hours, Eric approached him, his eyes shimmering with tears. "Dad, I want you to help me make this house a home. This isn't just about me," he said, his words cutting through the chaos like a beam of hope in the darkness. In that moment, John felt something shift within him. Could he let love drive this new chapter of their lives? The thought sparked a flicker of hope, but self-doubt lingered like a ghost. He pondered if he could redefine what it meant to be a provider. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." As he looked deep into Eric's sincere eyes, the sun began to set, casting rays of orange and pink across the backyard, illuminating both father and son in a halo of promise. They were at a crossroads, a chance to mend their bond, but the shadows of past grievances still loomed. Could John muster the strength to push aside his fears? Was he ready to embrace this new beginning alongside Eric? The questions lingered like echoes of hope, leaving both of them yearning for clarity in the complicated tapestry of family and love. The next few days felt like a blur for John. The world outside was alive with the sounds of summer. Children playing, lawnmowers humming, and the rhythmic calls of ice cream trucks drifting through the neighborhood. Yet within him a storm brewed. Each time he closed his eyes, he saw the blazing sunset that night. Eric's hopeful expression fixed in his mind. The thought of helping his son make the house a home filled him with warmth, but shadows of doubt lurked. "Have you thought about what you want to do first?" Eric's voice jolted John from his thoughts. They were sitting on the porch swing one evening, the air thick with dusk. Eric looked excited, scrolling through paint swatches on his phone. John shifted, unsure how to respond. "Honestly, I don't know," John admitted, voice barely above a whisper. "I've never done anything like this before." "Yeah, but it's not just about the house, Dad," Eric said, his eyes shining with enthusiasm. "This is a chance for us to create something new together. We'll make it our little adventure." The optimism dripped from his words, fresh like rain on parched ground. John hesitated, grappling with his own insecurities. He remembered his father's calloused hands working tirelessly to provide. "But what if I mess it all up for you? What if I can't help the way you deserve? Eric leaned closer, his expression earnest. You already are helping. Just being here means the world to me. It's not always about the big things, Dad. It's the time we spend together that matters. His voice was steady, grounded. As the porch swing swayed gently, John felt the weight of his fears begin to lift. It was true. Building memories mattered just as much, if not more. Perhaps this was his chance to redefine fatherhood, not as a provider of financial stability, but as a supporter of dreams, showing up in the ways that counted. The next morning they set off for the home improvement store. The shelves, lined with colors and textures, became a playground of possibilities. Eric eagerly picked out soft blue paint for the living room while John marveled at the explosion of ideas, feeling a thrill course through him. Dad, what do you think about this plant? Eric held up a small fiddle leaf figure. It'll bring some life to the space. Sure, let us grab it, John agreed, a smile cracking through his earlier tension. The thrill of creation bubbled within him, igniting a warmth he had almost forgotten. As they loaded the car, the laughter shared. The notes of camaraderie that bounced between them began to break the walls John had unknowingly built around his heart. That evening they stood in Eric's new living room, the paint still drying and the lone plant sitting proudly on the windowsill. It wasn't much yet, but it felt like a sacred space filled with hope. John turned to Eric, his heart swelling with pride. I think this is going to be great for both of us. As Eric lit up with a grin, it dawned on John that this wasn't merely about a house anymore. It was about building a bridge to a better relationship. But as they stepped back to admire their work, John couldn't shake off an unsettling feeling. Would he be enough through the challenges ahead? Just then Eric's phone buzzed. An unexpected message lit up the screen. When John leaned in to read it, his heart skipped a beat. It was from someone he didn't want in their lives just now. Dad, we need to discuss this, Eric said, his expression shifting abruptly from joy to worry. As the colors of their new adventure faded into uncertainty, John realized they were about to face not just the walls of a house but perhaps the walls of their very own hearts. The atmosphere changed rapidly. John's heart raced as he read the message again, unable to comprehend how a few short lines could cast such a long shadow. Eric's face fell, the smile replaced by a frown that tugged at John's chest. Who is it? John's voice was tight, a mix of concern and fear. He didn't want to pry but couldn't mask his anxiety. It's just, Eric hesitated, his brow furrowing. It's my mom. She wants to talk about some things. The mention of Eric's mother was like a jolt of ice water. John felt a chill settle in the warm summer air. Memories surged, uninvited fights, arguments, the deep silence that used to linger between them. What does she want? John managed, though he could already imagine the tangled mess of their past. Eric looked at his father, torn between the desire to share everything and the instinct to shield him from pain. She wants to know how I'm doing. She mentioned she heard I was moving into this place. Did you tell her? John asked, the words tumbling out before he could hold them back. He felt a protective instinct rise in him, a barrier between his son and the past. Yet he also knew Eric needed the freedom to make his own choices, even if they haunted him. No, I didn't. I didn't want her to think she could just show up, Eric replied, frustration creeping into his voice. You think she'll try to come here, don't you? It's hard to say. She could. Or she might not, but it's a big change, Eric. You're starting fresh, and she has always been a complicated presence. John regretted those words as soon as they left his lips. Was he discouraging Eric from reaching out? Was he pushing him back into those shadows he was desperately trying to escape? I don't want her in our lives right now, Eric said fiercely. I told you this is a new start. I need this to be about us. John nodded, trying to align his thoughts with Eric's certainty. He felt a surge of pride, seeing his son so resolute. But it was undermined by the gnawing worry in his heart. If only they could keep the past at bay. If only that message weren't a prelude to more feelings of disappointment. What if she reaches out again? John asked softly. It was a question that hung heavy between them, one that neither wanted to acknowledge but needed to face. Then I'll deal with it. I'm not a kid anymore. I can handle this. Eric's voice was steadier now, but John could see the uncertainty in his eyes. He realized that Eric needed him to be supportive, not a source of additional weight. Okay, John said, stepping forward. Let us just keep our focus on what we're building here. This is our place. We can make it strong enough to withstand anything that comes our way. Eric looked at his dad, a flicker of hope lighting his features. You mean it? Absolutely, John assured him, a lump forming in his throat. Their connection had deepened in such a short time, and he wasn't about to let anything past or present tear them apart. They both stepped away from the window, standing in the center of the room where the smell of fresh paint filled the air. Eric pointed at the empty wall beside them. We should put up some pictures. To remind us of all the great times to come. Yeah, John agreed, a smile breaking across his face. That sounds perfect. But deep down, John knew the shadows of uncertainty weren't gone. They lingered just outside the walls they were building together. Dad, do you think it'll be okay? Eric asked, a hint of vulnerability cracking his brave facade. I want to believe it will be, son. But we'll need to be ready for anything. As they began to brainstorm ideas for their wall, John couldn't shake the feeling that the past was not finished with them just yet. A soft buzz interrupted their thoughts again. This time it was John's phone, a message that threatened the serenity they had just begun to cultivate. He looked at the screen, dread pooling in his stomach. Eric, we might need to talk more than we thought. And as Eric turned to face him, the same question echoed in both their minds. What was about to unfold? John stared at his phone, its screen glowing like an ominous warning. The message was from an unknown number, but the words felt all too familiar. He hesitated, the weight of anticipation heavy in the air. Eric watched him, anxiety seeping into his expression. Is it her? Eric asked, his voice a whisper. I don't know. It might be. John felt a lump in his throat. He didn't want to think they were being pulled back into that cycle. But curiosity nagged at him, urging him to look. What if this was more than just a casual check-in? What if it was an invitation to reopen wounds? But the truth was they couldn't escape the past. It was woven into their very being. With a shaky hand, John pressed the message open. The text read, Hi John. It's Caroline. We need to talk about Eric. It's important. His heart sank. The low hum of hope they'd built was suddenly overshadowed by her presence. Caroline, the woman who brought chaos into their lives. But beneath that chaos, there was also a longing for connection, for understanding a history that still clouded the present. Dad? Eric's anxious voice cut through his thoughts. Our past is never really past, is it? John said, almost to himself. No. Eric shifted his weight from one foot to the other. But we don't have to let it dictate our future. John appreciated how much his son had grown, how strong he was becoming. Still, he couldn't help but worry about the gravity of Caroline's words. What if this time is different? What if she really wants to make amends? Then we'll see. But I don't want to be blindsided, Eric replied, a steely determination settling on his features. If this is about her, then we face it together. John felt a swell of pride. Whatever this moment leads to, we'll stand our ground. Together. Eric nodded. Together. The air shifted around them as they grasped the reality of their situation. John composed a response quickly. He wanted to take control of the narrative, to ensure they weren't mere spectators in their lives anymore. Caroline, I appreciate your message. Let us talk. But understand Eric's well-being is my priority. After hitting send, he felt an unsettling calm wash over him, mingled with a current of uncertainty. Eric glanced at his dad. How do you feel? Worried? Hopeful? Conflicted? Eric let out a slow breath. Me too. But I guess that just means we're human, right? Right, son? It's okay to feel all of those things. The silence that followed was heavy but filled with an understanding deeper than words. The pain of their past intertwined with the promise of a new beginning. As they continued discussing ideas for their wall, the phone buzzed again. John's heart raced. Another message from Caroline. He glanced at it and felt his stomach drop. It's a picture of a younger Eric. Looks like she's not giving up without a fight. Eric's expression fell. Why does she have to come back now? Why can't she just let us be? Because son, John sighed, searching for words. She probably wants to connect, but it's up to us to decide if that connection is worth the risk. Eric rubbed his temples, frustration flashing across his face. I just wanted things to be normal. Normal is what we make it, John reminded him gently. Right. Eric's resolve hardened again. No matter what the past looks like, we've created something good here. Absolutely. But this is not over yet. John glanced at the phone again, the photo resting in bold display, revealing a moment that felt like a doorway opening. As he prepared to respond to the latest onslaught of memories, he couldn't shake the feeling that something more was waiting in the wings, something that could turn everything upside down. Dad, what if she's not just trying to reconnect with me but has bigger plans? Eric's voice trembled slightly. An uneasy atmosphere settled between them. Then we face it head-on. Because whatever happens next, we will face it together. As silence engulfed them, John wondered what revelation would come next. What truths lay in the shadows? What transformations would this moment spark? The unfolding story was far from over, and he knew one thing for certain. The past had a way of coming back, and when it did, it demanded to be reckoned with. John felt a chill run down his spine as he stared at the photo again. It was a snapshot of better times, Eric beaming with that carefree smile, the brightness of youth in his eyes. Memories flooded back, wrapped in joy and pain. He felt a tug in his chest as teetering feelings danced within him, nostalgia battling the dread of what lay ahead. Eric leaned in, trying to catch a glimpse of the screen. "What is it?" he asked, his voice a mix of anticipation and wariness. It's a picture from when you were little. You look so happy." John's voice caught slightly, the words hung with unspoken memories. "What is she playing at?" Eric said, frustration rising again. "Does she think this will just magically fix everything?" John put the phone down and faced Eric, determined. "Listen, whatever her motives, we have to be prepared. This isn't just about the past, it's about how we move forward from it." Eric crossed his arms, a stubborn expression creasing his brow. "I just hate that she gets to stir this up. We're finally at peace, Dad." John stepped closer, placing a reassuring hand on Eric's shoulder. "I get it. You have every right to feel angry, but we're stronger than her influence. We've come too far to let fear cloud our judgment." Yeah, Eric's voice softened a fraction, but the anger still flickered in his eyes. "But what if she's just a ticking time bomb? Then we examine the bomb together." "Figuratively, of course," John said, trying to lighten the mood. Eric couldn't suppress a smile. The tension eased slightly between them. "Okay, metaphorically, I'm all in." John nodded, appreciating the small victory. "Good. We'll figure this out, and I promise we'll put your feelings first always. But we need to be ready for anything." He glanced again at the screen where Caroline's photo sat. Was this her attempt at sincerity? Was she showing them a softer side? Or was it merely a manipulation tool packaged as nostalgia? The next buzz from his phone made them both jump. It was another message, this time a lengthy one. John glanced at Eric, then back at the screen, hesitating. The suspense hung in the air like a heavy fog. "Open it," Eric urged, breaking the silence that enveloped them. John took a deep breath and opened the message. It read, "I've been thinking a lot about the past. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want to understand your lives now. If I could show you how I've changed, would you let me?" His heart raced. She wants to talk about change, about understanding. This isn't just her reaching out in chaos. Eric shook his head. "I don't trust her. Not yet. We can't let her back in so easily. You know what she did to us." "I do. Believe me, I do." John's thoughts collided with memories that felt sharper with each passing moment. The pain Caroline had caused weighed heavy on his shoulders. The hurt was there, but underneath it flickered a glimmer of hope. But what if, just what if, she is being genuine? "Let us be smart about this. Emotions can cloud judgment," Eric replied firmly. "But it doesn't mean we have to shut the door entirely either." Both of them grappled with the possibility, the future stretching before them like a road of uncertainty. John closed his eyes for a moment, recalling their life before the laughter, the bond forming through thick and thin, the moments spent building a home together. Yet, the thought of Caroline tarnished that home like a dark shadow. And now, as she reached out, the fear of what could unfold hung over them, waiting to strike anew. "Okay," John decided, breathing out slowly. "Let us talk. But on our terms. We set the ground rules no matter what. Agreed?" "Agreed." Eric's voice was resolute. "But I just want to know one thing, Dad. What if she is still the same person underneath? What then? Then we'll have to confront her and defend what we've fought so hard to create. No matter what." The weight of those words settled deep within them, Yet they felt the strength of their united front as John sent a cautious reply. A tingling mix of anxiety and hope coursed through him. Their journey into the unknown was about to unravel. And they were holding on tight, ready for whatever lay ahead, but would they find reconciliation? Or only deeper wounds waiting to resurface? The next few hours crawled by, leaving John and Eric in a whirl of emotions. They sat in the living room, silence settling between them like a soft blanket, each lost in their own thoughts. John glanced at Eric, who was staring out the window, arms still crossed over his chest. "Do you think she is serious?" Eric finally broke the quiet, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," John admitted, rubbing the back of his neck. "I want to believe that she is trying to change. But the past it's hard to ignore." Eric turned away from the window, meeting his father's gaze. "What if she isn't really trying? What if she is just playing us again? Then we'll be on guard. We have to protect ourselves." John's heart raced at the thought of Caroline walking back into their lives. "But we can't just shut her out completely. We have to be willing to listen. What if she says something that makes us question everything?" John pondered that for a moment. "That's a risk we have to take. We may have fought for our peace, but we owe it to ourselves to explore this together." Eric nodded slowly, though uncertainty still flickered in his eyes. "Fine. We talk to her. But I want to set a time limit. Like, if she pulls the same stunts again, we walk away. No matter what." "Agreed," John replied, feeling a sense of relief wash over him. Establishing boundaries felt empowering, like they were taking control of the situation. As the evening wore on, they crafted a message together, each word chosen carefully, like pieces of a fragile puzzle. Finally, John hit send, his heart pounding faster than before. "Ready or not, here we go," he muttered, half joking, but the heaviness hung in the air like a storm cloud. The next morning, John woke early, an old feeling of dread creeping back in. The clock ticked loudly in the stillness of their home. He was restless, nerves coiling tightly in his gut. He made coffee, hoping the ritual would calm him. As the aroma filled the kitchen, his phone buzzed again. He set the mug down carefully, feeling as if it was only a moment's distraction. The message was from Caroline. "Can we meet? I have a lot to say and I can't do it over text." The moment lingered for a heartbeat like a paused movie frame. Then time resumed its course, crashing back into reality. John swallowed hard, heart racing again. "Dad?" Eric appeared in the doorway, sleepy-eyed but alert. "What is happening?" "She wants to meet." John's voice was shaky, and he moved to show the message to Eric. "She says she has a lot to say." "Right, so she can manipulate us face to face," Eric replied, crossing his arms tightly again. "We won't let her. We'll go, but we stay focused. Just like we talked about." After a long back and forth, they settled on a small cafe downtown, a place with sunlight streaming through the windows, a stark contrast to the lingering storm clouds of their past. As they prepared to leave, John looked at Eric. "You ready?" Eric nodded, though his expression was still tense. "I guess we'll find out what she really wants." The drive was filled with quiet anxiety, the weight of what was to come settling in the back seat beside them. Each moment felt stretched like rubber, the tension thickening with every passing mile. Finally they arrived, the cafe buzzing with warmth and life. It felt strange to be stepping into such a familiar place, knowing the history that lay suspended in their hearts. As they approached the table where Caroline sat, John's mind raced through potential outcomes, a whirlwind of hope clashing mercilessly with the fear of betrayal. And then he locked eyes with her. She smiled, but there was something unreadable in her expression. Was it regret or merely a mask hiding the same old game? He glanced at Eric, whose hands fidgeted nervously. "Let us just keep our heads on straight," John murmured, trying to anchor them both. As they sat down, John prepared himself for whatever revelations might come pouring out. Would it be the truth they'd been hoping for? Or merely a new layer of deception? The tension in the air churned with possibility. What would Caroline reveal, the heart of her intentions, or only deeper scars just waiting to be reopened? The moment lingered as John and Eric took their seats, their chairs scraping softly against the wooden floor. Caroline's smile faltered for just a heartbeat, and John felt the weight of unspoken words settle heavily in the air between them. "Thank you for coming," Caroline said, her voice steady but soft, like a morning breeze before a storm. John noticed the slight tremble in her hands as she fiddled with the napkin on the table. I know this isn't easy for you both. Eric's jaw tightened, but he remained silent, his eyes narrowed in suspicion. John nodded, trying to convey some semblance of reassurance. We're here. Let us hear what you have to say. Caroline took a deep breath and glanced down at the table, contemplating her next words. I want to talk about the past and why I haven't been in your lives. She hesitated, the remorse in her eyes flickering like candlelight. I know I've hurt you both. More than I can ever say. Do you really believe you can just apologize and everything will be fine? Eric interrupted, his voice laced with hurt and disbelief. You just disappeared. Hot anger surged within John, but he held it back, sensing Eric's pain. Let her speak, Eric, he said quietly. This is our chance to understand. Caroline looked at Eric, the tension between them palpable. I know it's hard to trust me, she began, her voice tinged with desperation. But I've been working on myself. I've gone to therapy and I've realized how toxic my behavior was. I didn't just walk away. I ran from my fears. John studied her face, searching for the sincerity he longed to find. So what do you want from us? What do you expect? She clenched her fists, taking a moment to steady herself. I want a chance. A real chance to rebuild our relationship. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm willing to prove it. Her voice cracked, vulnerability spilling into her words. I want to be part of your lives again, truly part of it. John felt a flicker of something familiar rise within him, hope. But just as quickly, that hope was laced with doubt. How could they trust her after everything? He glanced sideways at Eric, who was deep in thought, his expression a mix of skepticism and longing. If we give you a chance, Eric finally said, his voice steady but guarded. What does that look like? How do we know it's not just another game? Caroline leaned forward, earnestness flooding her eyes. I know it won't be easy. I'll agree to anything, check-ins, meetings, whatever you need to feel safe. I'll accept the limits you set. No questions asked. Just, let me prove that I'm different. John felt the muscles in his heart tighten, torn between the man she used to be and the woman sitting before them now. We can't forget, Caroline, he replied, his voice heavy with emotion. But I think we owe it to ourselves to explore this. But if you hurt us again, I promise I won't. She interrupted, the sincerity breaking through the cracks in her voice. I just need you to meet me halfway. Eric shot John a worried look. Can we really do this, Dad? Can we risk it? There was silence for a moment, just the hum of the cafe and the distant chatter of patrons filling the void. John's heart raced, wrestling with the fear of what returning to Caroline might bring. I don't know, he said truthfully, looking between them. But I think maybe we need to try. Just this once. And as the words hung in the air, the scattered pieces began to shift. Would this be a step towards healing or another heartbreak? Outside, thunder rumbled ominously, distantly echoing the churning feelings in John's chest. Caroline's eyes sparkled with unshed tears. Thank you, she whispered, but the moment was fragile like glass, waiting to shatter with the slightest pressure. As they navigated their conversation, John's mind raced with consequences and what-ifs. He wondered, could the very ground they stood upon give way again, as it had in the past? In that charged silence, the clock ticked steadily, and a small voice inside John whispered doubts that would not let go. What would they do if Caroline slipped back into her old ways? Or worse, if she revealed something he wasn't prepared to hear? A hush settled over the cafe, the air thick with unexpressed feelings. Caroline's fingers worked nervously at the hem of her sleeve, and John could see the vulnerability etched on her face. Eric's brow remained furrowed, weighing the words that had just been shared. So, how do we start? Eric broke the silence, his voice thick with uncertainty. Caroline looked up, her gaze steady now, a flicker of hope igniting in her eyes. Let us start small. How about regular dinners? You can invite me over and we'll just talk like a family should. We can take it one meal at a time. A lot can happen in a meal, Eric said, his skepticism still showing. I know, Caroline admitted, her voice steady but filled with emotion. I know I've broken trust before, but I'm ready to rebuild it. Piece by piece. I just need the chance. John leaned back in his chair, feeling the weight of that pressure on him. It was an appeal that tugged at the tight-knit strings of his heart, the love that flickered despite the fear. What if we start with just a coffee? It's easier to manage. Coffee sounds good, Caroline replied, relief sweeping over her face. Whenever you're ready. Eric nodded slowly, still wary but beginning to soften. Maybe we could do that this weekend, just coffee. Just coffee, Caroline echoed with a smile, the first authentic smile John had seen from her in ages. John's mind whirled. Coffee felt like stepping out onto a ledge, the ground below shadowy and uncertain. Yet, the idea of having those moments with Caroline again ignited a spark of something long-lost connection. What if we go to that new cafe downtown? Eric suggested. Supposed to be nice and well neutral. Good idea, John said, surprise mingling with gratitude for Eric's willingness to engage. Abandoning old patterns felt like walking through a door long barred shut. Yet something within him beckoned him forward. Imagine how it could feel, Caroline continued, her voice a soothing balm to his nervy thoughts. Just talking about our lives, sharing the little things. I want to hear about you, both of you. What you've been doing, how you are. As John watched her, signaling her sincerity with expressive hands and open eyes, a crack formed in the wall he had built over the years. Could they really approach normalcy? The thought was intoxicating yet terrifying. Eric glanced back at his father, searching for assurance. Are you really okay with this, Dad? What if she? I know, John interjected quickly, not wanting to dismiss Eric's fears. But every relationship carries risk. What matters is whether we can work through it together. I'd never do it alone, Caroline added, a plea lingering in her voice. I'm committed to showing you both how much you mean to me. They lingered in this moment, balancing on the edge. John felt the shifting ground beneath him, conflicting emotions wrestling for dominance. Okay, coffee and conversation, John finally said, giving a tentative nod. Just the three of us. Caroline's smile brightened, and for the first time it felt genuine. Thank you, she said softly, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. You have no idea how much this means. I promise to make it worth your while. With every heartbeat, John remained skeptical yet hopeful, feeling the return of emotions he had buried. Outside, the thunder rumbled again, a reminder of the storm that still brewed but now felt a little less fierce. Could this be a first step toward healing? As he pondered the answer, he felt the weight of that very question in the air. A weight he hoped wouldn't crush them all over again. And then, before he could say anything further, Caroline hesitated, her expression shifting. There's something else you need to know, something important that I haven't shared yet. A tremor of anxiety ran through him. What could she possibly reveal now? And would this revelation threaten everything they were cautiously building? Caroline's words hung in the air like an unyielding weight, pressing down on them with palpable tension. John felt his breath catch in his throat, a sense of dread mixed with an odd curiosity swirling within him. Eric shifted in his seat, his youth tinged with apprehension as he leaned in, eager yet fearful about what was coming next. What is it? John finally asked, his voice steady but strained. He could see the battle within Caroline, the way she hesitated, her lips quivering with unsaid thoughts. She took a deep breath, closing her eyes for a brief moment as if steeling herself. It's about why I left. Why I felt I had to walk away in the first place. Silence engulfed the cafe like a fog rolling in over a quiet bay. John's heart raced as his mind raced back to those tumultuous times, to arguments echoing down darkened hallways, and the strained conversations that always seemed to end in tears. Caroline, you don't have to, Eric started, but Caroline shook her head gently. No, I do. You both deserve the truth even if it's hard to hear. John instinctively reached for Eric's hand, squeezing it in an expression of unspoken support. The raw vulnerability of the moment made it feel like they were all leaning over a precipice, teetering at the edge of something monumental. I felt trapped, Caroline continued, her voice catching in her throat. I fell into a routine that made me feel like I was losing myself. I was scared of failing as a mother. I thought stepping away would help us all breathe. John's heart twisted at her words. Trapped. It was a term that resonated deeply, casting a light on the shadows of their past. Yet even as he opened up to that understanding, a part of him still felt the sting of betrayal. Why didn't you tell us? Eric asked, confusion lacing his voice. Why didn't you just say something? Caroline sank lower in her chair, the anguish washing over her features. I thought you would both be better off without me. That my absence would mend whatever I had broken. I can see now how wrong that was, that running away was never the solution. Moments passed, each second stretching into an eternity as the weight of her confession settled around them. The cafe was a world apart, the chatter of patrons fading into a mere whisper. "I'm here now," she finally whispered, lifting her gaze to meet theirs, her eyes pleading yet hopeful. "I'm trying to make things right. I'm not asking for forgiveness, just understanding." The silence that followed was heavy, filled with a brewing storm of emotions. John glanced at Eric, seeing the confusion written across his son's young face. That fragile balance of hurt and yearning for his mother's love. "Maybe we can talk about it more over coffee," John suggested, his voice shaky but filled with determination. "But it will take time. We need to process this." Caroline nodded, releasing a breath she had been holding as hope flickered once more in her eyes. "Thank you for hearing me," she said, sincerity washing over her. "I promise to be here to make up for lost time." As they sat together, the uneasiness began to dissipate. John felt a shift, a tentative commitment hovering in the air, fragile yet undeniably present. They were slowly rebuilding, stitch by stitch, until it felt like a tapestry of family could once more emerge from the remnants of their past. But just as John thought he could finally grasp the threads of hope, a shadow crossed Caroline's face. "There's one more thing," she started, her voice trembling. "What now?" Eric asked, irritation sneaking into his tone. Caroline gulped, clearly panicking under pressure. "I didn't just leave. I left for a reason that would change everything." John felt his heart drop again. What in the world could she possibly say that would turn their fragile moment anew? The air thickened and he braced himself for whatever could come next, hoping it wouldn't shatter the tentative peace they had begun to forge. Caroline took a deep breath, visibly struggling to maintain her composure. "I left because I was scared, and the truth is, I was in a relationship that wasn't just unhealthy. It was dangerous. I needed to escape for my own safety and for yours." John felt the weight of her words strike like a heavy blow. Eric's eyes widened, and he let out a shaky breath. "What do you mean, dangerous?" Caroline looked down at her hands, twisting the napkin tighter. "The man I was with, he was abusive in ways I couldn't see until it was too late. I chose to leave because I didn't want that darkness to seep into our lives. I thought I was protecting you both. How could you think leaving would fix anything?" Eric's voice trembled with hurt and a sense of betrayal. "I thought it was the only way to save you from the chaos in my mind," Caroline insisted, her eyes shining with tears. "But I see now that it only created more chaos. I see the pain it caused you." In that moment, John felt something in him shift. Yes, the past was stained with hurt, but Caroline's pain too was real. It hung over their heads like a rain cloud. Her vulnerability opened a door he never expected, a sliver of understanding shining through as silence settled in again. John wondered if this could be a turning point. "We can talk about this," he said softly, his voice steadying. "But it has to go both ways. Your honesty has to continue. No more secrets." Caroline nodded, relief flooding her features. "Promise. I can't change the past, but I'm committed to being honest moving forward. You both deserve that." Eric's brows furrowed, still processing. "So what does this mean for us? Can we be, I don't know, a family again?" "It will take time," John added, now feeling a swell of resolve. "Trust is earned and we have a long way to go. But if you're willing to show up for us, we'll do the same." Tears brimmed Caroline's eyes. "I'll fight for that for all of us." Starting with coffee, real conversations, nothing hidden. A bond began to weave back together in the silence that followed, a thread of hope threading through their hearts. It wasn't going to be easy and healing would take work, but they vowed to face whatever lingered ahead. "Let us make this our first step," John said, glancing at Eric, who seemed more pliable now, more willing to engage. "Together, healing takes teamwork." "Together," Eric echoed, his voice taking on a steadiness that John adored. And just like that, a fragile peace began to settle. The thunder outside rolled away, drifting into the distance, taking the storm of emotions with it. The cafe buzzed around them as they settled in, ready to navigate each nuance of renewed connection. As they talked, John felt a sense of warmth deep inside him. They were creating a new path, one filled with understanding and resilience, determined to step forward even amidst the shadows they once faced. Later, as they stepped outside into the soft glow of evening light, a renewed energy pulsed through John's veins. They had taken the first steps toward understanding. They were three weary hearts embarking on a journey to redefine their family, something no storm could undo. John glanced over at Eric, who wore a tentative smile, and at Caroline, whose eyes sparkled with a mix of remorse and hope. This was just the beginning. "Dad," Eric said, excitement bubbling forth, "can we do that living room wall with all our pictures together?" "I'd love that," John replied, his heart swelling. And in that moment John knew that this family, this bond, was worth fighting for. Together, through every trial and tear, this love would shine even brighter. Now, as they reveled in the sense of newfound possibility, a thought struck. The journey ahead would not be without its challenges, but they would face it all together. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help spread this story. Comment your thoughts and feelings about this ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation.